Hey, before today's episode of Same Business, Different Day, I want to invite you to listen to Velocity, the Vista Chamber podcast, where we interview the movers, shakers, and changemakers of Vista, California. Watch Velocity on YouTube or tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. Velocity, moving Vista forward.
I think one of the things about entrepreneurship is that we make it look so flashy and so easy. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to do that. When I talk to my clients, sometimes they're like, I don't want to talk about this. It's kind of like hard for me to talk about because it's really embarrassing and I don't have this in order. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm here for, you know? And they're like, oh, but I'm like, when they say like, I'm embarrassed, I'm like, we all are yeah, there's months where my account's overdrawn and there's months where I'm okay, you know?
Sure.
So when we all start, it's hard. It's a roller coaster.
That's right.
So I think that's one of the things that I bring to my clients as well. Like, I'm not just a lawyer in a big firm collecting a paycheck. I'm right there with you in the trenches, like hustling, you know? Right. And yeah, whatever I can do to motivate you and help you keep going, or, invite you to a networking event to just get through it. Whatever it takes.
Same business, different day.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the Same Business, Different Day podcast. Of course, as always, we are recording in the world famous Film Hub here in Vista, California, and we've got another great show for you. I'm your host, Zeke Corley, and today we have a very special guest continuing our season 4 Meraki season theme. I met this young lady that fateful night, and have since learned so much more from her. Style, grace, and knowledge is in the house with Viviana Oropeza.
So glad to be here.
Welcome. I'm really glad that you're here. Thank you so much for making the trip up from San Diego to be here with us.
Yeah, so happy to be here with you.
Good. Now, so I want to hear, we're going to talk a little bit about early experiences, right? We're going to talk about early on and what molded you into the business person that you became today. Okay. So, where did it all start? Do you remember where did you grow up actually?
I actually grew up on both sides of the border. I grew up here in California, various places here in Southern California, as well as deep in Mexico in Tocaltiche, Jalisco.
Say it again.
Tocaltiche, Jalisco.
Tocaltiche.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been. One of my favorite little towns is Tlaquepaque.
Tlaquepaque, yeah.
Yeah, I just like how it's spelled. I like how to pronounce it, all of that stuff. I had to learn it over and over.
Yeah, it's near Guadalajara. I know a lot of people know Guadalajara. It's about 2 hours from there. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I like Guadalajara. I went down there and did some tequila tasting one
I was going to say, did you do the tequila train?
No, I didn't do the train. I just went down. I went down to visit Fortaleza. I went down and saw Cofradia, Casanoble. I just had a guy drive us down and just had a great time down there. It was cool.
Yeah, it's great.
It is a great little town, and Jalisco's beautiful.
Yeah, and Jalisco's where, tequila was born.
So. It's the only place you can make tequila.
Right.
Yeah. So now, early on, with all of that moving and everything, there had to be some steady force, right? You have folks that you looked up to, mentors or anything like that, or
a steady force
early on.
God, probably.
Yeah.
That was my steady force.
I hear you. I like it. So, what at what age were you actually picking up on, the aspirations? What did you want to be when you grew up? What were you thinking at a young age?
Well, honestly, I almost feel like I was born with it, right? And that's only reflecting back of when I was 5 years old, and people had discussed various paths that they were going to take. I remember overhearing, I was 5 years old and overhearing people saying that they wanted to buy a lottery ticket, and I was like, why would you buy a lottery ticket when you can just grow up and make your own money? In my mind, that just didn't make sense.
Okay.
And that's the mentality I've had since a very young age.
Really?
Yeah.
So, and then make your own money how? Like, what did you think you might do?
It didn't matter, actually. To me, I've always been very, like, I've always had my heads in the clouds a lot. One of the things that I loved doing was I would climb trees, and I would take books that I would check out at the library with me and just, like, lay in a tree and read a book.
Really?
So
I've only seen that in movies.
Yeah, and just kind of daydreamed as to what I was going to do with my life. I knew I liked reading and academia, so I kind of, took that on since an early age, reading. But I didn't really do good in school until I got older.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't, I had a kind of a very unstable household. My dad was an alcoholic, and, we were kind of in a very impoverished, very kind of hard situation from a very young age. But for me, I never really got good grades until I hit high school. And when I had moved out of my house and I finally focused on my own is when I was able to get it together. Because since I was a kid, my teachers always were they were always worried about me, right? And I never got good grades. I never studied. I didn't know how to study. I never knew any of that. But I didn't realize I had it in me until I hit high school. I was on my own. I was working, and I knew that I could sit down and focus and do good. And that's how it kind of came together.
You're going to have to explain this to me. Okay, so now, the thing that I'm thinking about is when you're saying that you were on your own, but the other thing I'm trying to figure out is what were the teachers worried about or so concerned about? Did they know what was going on at home or how things were?
For the most part, they didn't. It was more my teachers always, every time I was going to go to the next school year, they my prior teacher would sit down with my incoming teacher and talk to them about what to expect from me. And the only reason I would find
from
out,
you,
what, she, and it was always the same thing, she's kind of angry, you might have to deal with that, or she's not very focused, or she talks too much, that kind of thing. And I remember getting into 6th grade, and I was frustrated because my teacher was telling me something about how they put me in a certain classroom, and I was upset because I wasn't with my friends. She's like, oh, well, we put you here because your prior teacher thought this would be better for you. And I'm like, well, what kind of conversation did you have with them? And they're like,
why wasn't I involved?
Yeah. And I was 12, and I was like, well, I was upset. I probably said things I shouldn't have said. And then during recess, I went and I hit up my 5th grade teacher, and I was like, what did you tell them?
Oh, okay.
And it was like, no, well, I just told them that, you do have a lot of potential, but, to watch out for you. And I was like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was always that oh, watch out for her. But I think
you didn't beat up any teachers or anything, did you?
No, I didn't do any of that. I just think I had a lot of energy, and I was an angry kid. I didn't have a lot of I didn't have good things going on at home. Yeah. And I took that out on at school and on people, So sometimes when people say oh, this kid is uncontrollable, or something's wrong with him, or I'm worried about him, I always tell them they're going to be okay. Just trust me. I was that kid, and it's okay,
I agree with you.
We all find our way.
I agree with you too. And I also, you hear it all the time, that word potential. If teachers see potential, but they don't know how to bring it out of the child or something, or maybe it's just going to take time or something like that. Or are they actually seeing potential, and are they actually not seeing potential and just using that word because the kid's not doing well? Yeah. I don't know what that is. You hear it a lot.
I can say my 5th grade teacher, I don't think he meant it in a bad way. Now that I reflect on it, when he talked to my 6th grade teacher, I think he was just trying to kind of give them a background to know how to help me, because he tried to help me a lot. As a matter of fact, I remember we all had to do science projects, and we were really poor, so we couldn't afford to buy anything. And I remember that at one point I had to do a project, and I didn't have paper. People had all these artsy projects that they could bring up, and I didn't have anything. And I remember getting a sandwich ad in the mail, and I, on the other side of it, I sketched out what I was going to talk about, and I put it on the board with tape, and I was giving a presentation. I was all proud of the little sketch I made on a sandwich flyer. Yeah. And the kids in class were laughing at me.
Wow.
So he actually stepped in to kind of help me with that, because by the time we had to do science projects, he kept me in from recess, and then he like opened his cabinet with all of his supplies and was like, take what you need.
Right.
To kind of help me like not be in that place again.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he was a good teacher, and I think he did it from like a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. And you needed that, right?
Yeah.
You needed somebody to step in and give you a little bit of something to help you get to the next step. So I can understand potential in that way. I mean, if you don't even have the tools, then what are you going to do?
Right.
You know, and so then go back to the story about high school and when you were eventually out on your own. What does on your own mean? Well, and how did school just come rushing back to you and just like, okay, we can do this now?
Yeah. So when I was about 15, we were in Mexico. We did this little thing where like we spend 1 year here in the US and then jumped back to Mexico. It was a couple of years and then came back. It was a back and forth thing. So, you know, I was hard because I switched schools a lot, but at the same time, like it helped me pick up both languages quite well because I was studying as I grew up in both sides of the border.
Okay.
And at the time when I was 15, I was in Mexico. So it came time where my dad had this thing where he was kind of very chauvinistic and was, you know, he had this mentality where it's like we started to grow up and we had to find somebody to take care of us, kind of like marry us off to a certain extent. And he had done that with my sister where when she turned 16, he pulled her out of school and kept her home. And my sister was just at home, like doing nothing, cleaning, cooking for the family. And out of desperation, like she just kind of ran off. She just ran away one day and she took off with a boy from the neighborhood. And we didn't know anything about where she was at for like almost a year. She disappeared in Mexico and we had lost my sister. So when I also started getting to that age, my dad pulled me out of school. And when he pulled me out of school, I was like, it's time for me to go because I'm not doing that. Like I'm not running off with a boy, but I am running away. Like I can't be here. I can't sit here and wait for my dad to try to figure out if he's going to be able to like marry me off to someone, right? So I left.
Do you feel stuck in your job and don't know what to do next? Do you feel like your job search is taking too long? If you listen to our podcast in season 4 with Wasim the Dream Hajiri, you know that he is here to give back. Wasim is an executive career coach who has helped hundreds of clients land their dream jobs, combined with more than $10 million in salary. He can help you too, but he can also help you help others. He's a member of Forbes Career Coaches Council and publishes articles that cover career, health, personal development, and more. He's a #1 best-selling author, and he's got a #1 best-selling book coming out right now. He needs your help. We're calling on our listeners to support Wasim. His new book summarizes the steps you need to take to land your dream job in record time. You'll learn how to be fulfilled in your job, deal with failure, rejection, and ghosting, balance mind, body, and spirit, find branding success on LinkedIn, and learn how to network effectively, and interview preparation to negotiate that winning salary. Fulfilled releases on February 22nd. If you buy it now for just $10, you'll get the ebook. And if you show us proof of purchase, you'll get a signed copy shipped directly to you. You will also get an invite to the pre-launch party. Find the book on fulfilled-book.com. Pause now and make the purchase on fulfilled-book.com. Our guests come in here to share for us, and they share for you too. We support our guests when they call on us, and we hope that you will too. Thank you so much. Now back to the show.
Hello, I'm William P. Toom, founder and president of Kaizen Group International, a San Diego-based business development company to support your bottom line. We specialize in recovering research and development, tax incentives, and reducing your energy utility cost expense. We advocate for your IRS cash rebates and credits, and we minimize the cost expense risk and increase your profit gain. Feel free to contact me directly through LinkedIn, and direct calls are always encouraged. Your success is our business. Thank you so much.
The Film Hub is the future of co-working in downtown Vista. Get energized in an inspiring work environment that is built for your success. With multiple membership options for workspace and private offices, you can become a part of our co-working community. The Film Hub makes it easier to produce the professional content your business needs. From video production, live streams, photo shoots, or in-person events, you can create all this and more in our audio and video facilities. Love your work and where you accomplish it. The Film Hub. When it comes to your wedding, you want to look and feel your best. You don't need to settle for anything less than perfection on the most important day of your life. With Meraki Allure, you can have a custom-designed and measured wedding dress that is exactly what you imagine. They will work with you to choose the perfect style and materials so you can enjoy your dream wedding day knowing that you look stunning. Let Meraki Allure help make your special day unforgettable. Book your consultation today at MerakiAllure.com. That's MERAKIALLURE.com.
I did. I stole money from my dad and I came here because I was born here. So I was able to get back on this side of the border.
Okay.
And this is where I ended up.
There's a lot interesting about that story, right? But I'm probably not equipped to dive into much of it.
The cultural aspect, you mean?
No, I can understand it. I've been around the Latin culture a lot in my life. But what I'm very interested in is the aspect of a lot of people have come on this show and moved around schools.
Yeah.
Even moved around the United States to go to different schools.
Yeah.
But you're going to different schools on both sides of the border.
Yeah.
And you even made a great point that it helped you with both languages, but that had to be just such an experience. I mean, because anybody who's moved, I've moved schools a lot in my years, and moving schools, especially, going to an all-black elementary school to an all-white middle school and all-white high school.
Yeah.
Right? That there's some, you got to figure some things out, right?
Yeah.
In terms of how to deal with it. Now, you actually were doing it on both sides of the border, which is probably even
I've
wilder.
actually calculated that from the time I started, preschool all the way through when I graduated high school, I went to 14 schools.
What?
Both sides of the border. Because sometimes we would move mid-years, other times we would have
but then you got to make new friends. You got to...
Yeah, and I think it's... I'm sure you've heard of this dynamic where it's like, especially for like U.S. born Mexicans like me, like we don't belong on either side of the border. Like you're in Mexico and people are like, oh, you're not really Mexican. Sure, and then you're here and it's like, you're not really American. Mm-hmm. So we always get like that.
It happens in a lot of cultures.
Like where you don't belong no matter where you're at. Mm-hmm. So in addition to like moving to different schools and like, taking on different languages at different points, it's like, trying to fit in somewhere where you don't really fit in. Because even in Mexico, it's like they treat us like we're like white and it's like we're not. We're still Mexican. Right. So it's hard to...
That is a fascinating story. That's amazing. I mean, especially considering, obviously I'm foreshadowing where you became, and I'm so happy for you and where you are now in life. But it's just amazing that someone will have to go through the things that you've been through. And then you get into high school. And you get into high school and then you start to succeed. You start to figure out that you do know how to study. You start to learn how to study and you start to figure out how to succeed in school.
Yeah. So I got that first report card with a bunch of D's, right? And then I was like, oh, like I guess I have to do something about it. And then I just started to realize that if I'm reading and then I'm learning. And if I'm learning, then I can take a test and know what I'm, know the answers. Yeah. So I quickly turned that around after the first quarter. And at the time I was going to a high school that was 2 cities away from where I lived because I was staying with an uncle. So I would, get up at 5 a.m. and ride the bus and, for several hours and get to school. So while I was on the bus is where I was doing my reading. And then I would get to school, and then right after school to catch the bus to work and work until late at night, catch the bus late at night, do my reading for the next morning. And then just kind of did that for the next 2 years until I got into college.
And you got into college.
I got into college.
You got into college. Now, before we get there, tell me about what kind of work you were doing.
Oh, I was working at an insurance agency. I actually started looking. They had a little career center. There was a job posting for like somebody to file paperwork, and I applied, and then I started working there, like cleaning up their back room, which was a disaster, and organizing their files. And then eventually I became like the person who's in charge of like scanning all their documents because they went like paperless. And then I just started taking on other responsibilities, and I actually worked there until through my freshman year of college. It was one of the jobs I had in freshman.
How many years is that?
So that was about 3 years.
So you were good at your job.
I was good at my job.
You're very organized.
I was.
Yeah. So you started to find your skill set. You figured out the things that you're good at.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good learning experience, and the people who I worked with, they were very protective of me, so that was good because I found a little bit of protection where I needed it.
I understand. Yeah. Now they were probably just good influences overall. You got to see how business works. You got to see people who were entrepreneurs themselves, and probably taught you some good business lessons that you took with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What would you think? What would you say is one of the top business lessons that you saw? Business lessons. Business lessons.
Well, to not do business with family informally. Get it down in writing.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah, family businesses are hard, and that was one of the things that I picked up on when I was there. There were some disputes between, the brothers, and it was one of those things that they didn't have down in writing, so it became an issue. So yeah.
That's also foreshadowing that you're good at getting things in writing now, aren't you?
Yeah.
I love it. So, okay. So we got to freshman year in college. Now you went, is that when you went to Redlands or where did you go to college?
Well,
first?
actually I went to Cal State San Bernardino.
San Bernardino. Okay. Yeah. Were you in that area? Is that where you were living, or how did you choose that school?
Well, I chose that school because I was living in Colton at the time with my uncle, and so it was in the area.
I know where Colton is. My aunt lives out there. Let me back up 1 second.
Yeah.
How exciting was high school graduation?
So excited.
Yeah, like you did it.
I was like, I can't believe I'm doing this, because throughout that whole time I doubted it a lot, because I was like sitting on the bus sometimes crying, like,
and you'd
like
been around people who were doubting you too,
right?
Yeah,
because my whole life, people said that something was wrong with me and that I was stupid. So at that point, when I started to see that I could make progress, but I was tired. I was a 16, 17-year-old kid on the bus, sleeping 3-4 hours a night, just trying to graduate high school. So yeah, it was very significant.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so then did you visit Cal State Bernardino? At what point did you decide this is a school I'm going to, and I know how I'm going to pay for it? I know all of what was the plan? I
did visit Cal State San Bernardino. The Career Center at one point had this little tour that they did of Cal State San Bernardino. So I went, and when I was there, I bought a college sweater, and I wore it everywhere when I was in high school, and I was like, this is where I'm going to school. Because I know it's San Bernardino, but for anyone who's been there, the place is beautiful. It's at the foot of the mountains. It's gorgeous. And I was like, oh, I want to come here because, I'm a tree climber. So I was like, the trees and the mountains, they're just gorgeous.
You made that clear. You climb trees. You can sit in a tree and read a book without falling out. That wouldn't be me. I'd fall. That's awesome. So, and then how about paying for school and all of that? Did you know what? One of the lessons that I'm picking up on this too, this is the second time that you mentioned a career center. Yeah. You're actually going to these shows that, because, I sit on the board with the Vista Chamber of Commerce here, right? And we do these kind of, job fairs and various, events.
Those things are very significant.
You recommend people should go to those, right?
Yeah, definitely. And take advantage of when you decide, I actually wrote this in my book. Like when you decide that you want something, you put it out into the universe and it kind of lines things up for you. So yeah, like I accidentally ended up in the career center and then I took advantage of that, right? Because that's where I would spend my lunches. And but I went to a good high school. Like I lived in Colton, but I got on a bus for 2 hours so I could go to Redlands High School.
Okay.
So that was significant because if I would have gone anywhere else, like I wouldn't have had that kind of support. And I had a counselor that, you know, when I started school, like brought me in his office and demanded that I tell him what I was going to do with my life. If I wouldn't have had that, like I wouldn't have started thinking about like, oh, what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
So those things are all very important. Like the people that assist you, the people that mentor you, the programs are super helpful and important.
I love it. I think I absolutely agree as well, you know, and the people put a lot of energy into putting those things on.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate when you don't get much attendance or something, you know what I'm saying? Because you know those people need this information.
Yeah.
And you see these folks over here trying to give this information, but they can't attract the people to it, you know?
Yeah. And I think one thing to remember is for people who put on those programs is that you never know what your reach is. You can have 1 or 2 people go in there, but you could change their entire lives and not even know it.
That's a good point as well. Yeah. I like that. Never stop going and actually putting on those events. That's really important. I love it. I love it. Dropping jewels. Okay. So then we get to tell me the school plan. Where we go next?
Where we go next? Well, I started kind of playing around with what I was going to do. Like I knew I wanted to be a lawyer since I was kind of young, but I wanted to give myself like grace to try other things. So when I initially started school, I was like a biochemistry major or something like that. And then I was like, oh, communications, this sounds awesome. But eventually I landed into the typical political science.
Political science.
Political science, yeah.
Okay. And that was at Cal State San Bernardino?
That was at Cal State San Bernardino. I did my bachelor's in political science.
Okay.
They were heavy on political theory, and I loved that. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's what my brother studied at Cal Berkeley. I was never into it, but I hear you.
It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you know, it's for the folks that love that kind of stuff, you know. Okay, so I think it's time to get into the reveal because we already kind of snuck it in there. Okay, so this is the founder and managing attorney of Oropeza Law. Viviana, also known as Attorney in Heels, is a legal expert that also has her MBA in finance. She's not out here just chasing ambulances. She's helping people with business startups, estate planning, and so much more. What better time than now to get advice on all of the above, right? Once again, welcome the Attorney in Heels, Miss Viviana Oropeza, to our show.
Yay.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So then you do go to law school.
I do eventually go to law school. It wasn't an easy path. It took me a while.
Well, you were at Redlands first.
Yeah, I went to University of Redlands and I did my MBA in finance, and I was an investment advisor for about 5 years, and I worked in that field.
MBA in finance, there's nothing to sneeze at. That's a big deal.
Yeah, so I did that, but I eventually decided to try again at going for the law degree. The LSAT was a challenge for me. I'm not gonna lie, I took it probably like 6 times.
Okay.
So it was one of those things that you had to like kind of wait a couple of years before you could try again, and eventually I was able to do it. So.
But you kept pursuing it though.
I kept
you were
pursuing
persistent
it.
about it.
They say one of the determinants of success is grit. Well, I didn't give up.
Yeah. I mean, because you could have made other choices at that point, right?
Yeah.
You had already had, like you said, you had your MBA. There were other things you could have done, but you just kept going for it. And so we'd obviously recommend that to our listeners, that if that's the kind of thing that you want to do, then
and you know what? My little tangent to finance and law, finance and business, and investment advising, like eventually ended up being like my alignment in the stars, because when I finally finished my law degree, like I had this background in finance and business, and I had a law degree, and I had been exposed to the financial side of estate planning. So it all kind of married together what is now my law practice, which is helping business owners and also helping families and businesses with, their estate planning and their buy sells and their transitions. And it's all stuff that I have an extensive financial background in. So clients love that, because I don't just sit there and talk legalese. Like I'm like, oh, forecasting, let's get the numbers down.
That's right. I love it. I mean, I've never seen it, me personally, not that I've researched it a lot, but I think that you have a great niche. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because of the knowledge that you have. You're not just, one-sided or single-minded with your approach. And I would recommend anybody to talk to you about any of the above, right? Whether it's the finance or the law. Okay, so now the Same Business Different Day podcast is brought to you by yourinsurancplace.com. Yourinsurancplace.com is a conglomeration of two agencies, Network One Insurance and Bill Corley Insurance Agency. Their property and casualty agents and brokers specialize in commercial insurance of all types, general liability, workers' compensation, professional liability, auto, agribusiness, and much more. They also have great insurance carriers for your homes and autos. How do I know they are that good? Because I'm one of the agents. We believe in ourselves, and you will too. Contact us at yourinsurancplace.com or call us direct at 866-384-0479. That's yourinsurancplace.com. Thank you for tuning in to the Same Business Different Day podcast. If you like the way that our show sounds and looks and are interested in doing a podcast of your own, send us an email. Yes, we've gotten into the podcast game, producing podcasts for individuals and businesses just like you. Contact us at adifferentdayradio@gmail.com or on IG at adifferentdayradio. But you went off on your own though, right? Yeah. So did you start with a firm at first, or a bigger firm at first, or?
So I passed the bar, and then the next week I opened my firm.
I love it. Look at you.
I know. It was just one of those things that I just knew I had to do. Because I was like, oh, I passed the bar, I'm great, I'm a lawyer, and then I felt bored. All I could think of was like, oh, like now I have to find a job. Like that sounds boring. Mm-hmm. And I just pictured my life like in my desk, 60 hours a week, not seeing my kids, like none of that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I kind of took a leap of faith and just kind of went on my own from the get-go.
Yeah. That's a big leap of faith.
It's a big leap. I had a ton of support, though. There was this program called Access to Law Initiative at the law school.
Reaching for the programs again.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And they helped you do a startup. So they would help you learn how to start up a firm, and then they would provide you with the attorneys to help support your launch. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. You know? So that's what I did. I reached out to Matt Lab there at California Western School of Law, and he just kind of took me with it.
I love it. That's amazing. So then, obviously, that would be a recommendation that you would give, right, to folks if they wanted to go out on their own. Look for the programs that can help them get there, as opposed to just
There's so much out there. We just have to look for it. You know. Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so now the planning, right? You do a lot of that now. That's part of the business practice.
Right.
It's a dumb question, but why should people have a plan? How important is it for folks to have a plan? I know you do estate planning. I know you do. Yeah.
Well, for many reasons, some are practical and some are emotional. Just last week, I was in a hospital executing a trust for a person who had COVID and was about to die. So, and she was worried about what was going to happen to her estate. Was I going to get locked up in the courts and probate? And she was so concerned about that. And it was one of those things where, I kind of did that on an emergency. Like I got called on a Sunday, and by Tuesday, like I was taking care of it. the relief on her face when she was signing everything is everything.
Right.
Like you could tell, like it put her at ease. And it's hard to do, but like you help people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's super important. I don't mean to get emotional, but
No, I think that's amazing. You know, and like I said, that's why I said in the reveal that, you know, we're not, you know, a lot of folks, how they think of attorneys.
Yeah.
I'm an insurance broker, right? You know, and so I've got the downside, what they say
Yeah.
about folks like me.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're not just talking about an ambulance chaser here. We're talking about somebody that's trying to help folks with their future and their planning,
it's,
you know.
And on the business side too, you know, like if we all get so enthusiastic about starting a business, but we always think about how we're going to get into it, but we never think about how we want to exit it. And that's a really big, important thing to plan. Like if one of you wants to exit the business, how are you going to do that gracefully without fighting with each other? You know, how are you going to, what are the terms of the valuation of the business when the person's going to exit? How much is the person going to get paid out? And if there is a buy-sell in place, what's going to fund the buy-sell? Are you going to put some whole life in place to fund the buy-sell? If you're going to do cross-insurance on each other, like there's so many fun strategies to do to protect yourself in the business.
You said fun.
Yeah, this stuff is all fun for me. You know, it has its fun aspects. I am nerdy. I'm sure you picked up on that.
No, I wouldn't say nerdy. I just think that that's very cool. I mean, you know, no, you want anybody that you're dealing with in any sort of a profession to really enjoy what it is that they do.
Yeah.
Right. And I really appreciate, you know, because as a consumer, right, I don't want to be around somebody who's just like, yeah, let's just get this done so I can go back and enjoy myself.
Yeah, like here's the paperwork.
Yeah, hurry up and sign it so
Yeah.
I can go do what I really want to be doing right now.
Yeah.
So no, I appreciate that. And you know what else I saw that it seems like you have fun doing, and I understand as your second year doing it, the 25 legal tips of Christmas.
Yeah.
I was watching you on social media doing that, and every day you popped up all the way leading up to Christmas with the legal tips, and there was some really cool ones in there. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. It's a fun thing, you know. Everybody always has their 25, you know, ABC has like their 25 movies of Christmas.
Okay.
It was one of those things where I was like, yeah, like I could do 25 legal tips of Christmas. So I started doing it. People respond to it and it's helpful, you know. So I figured I'd have fun with it. Sometimes I use some like fun, like during Christmas time, there's always like the fun Snapchat filters of like where I become a snowman and I'm giving a legal tip looking like a snowman. So why not?
I saw that. No, that was great. But there was great information there. And that's why I was saying earlier that I've learned from you, even though I haven't seen you since that one night meeting with the Meraki folks.
Yeah.
But that was, I've learned from you since then,
Oh, glad.
know, with just that information. I love when people use social media and you know, make content that can actually help folks and that actually, you know, still brings them back to you, but we've got to share.
Yeah, so it's a fun twist on being a lawyer but still being myself, you know? I get to practice law, but on my own terms.
Right.
Like I'm not the typical lawyer, right?
No,
I'm
attorney in heels.
So yeah, if I'm going to run my own firm, I'm going to do it my way.
That's right.
And I'm going to love it.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
Yeah. So what's it like? How fun, how much are you enjoying your own firm?
I'm loving it in the sense that I feel like I'm creating a pathway that a lot of people didn't used to have, which is a very informal way of running a law firm. Like attorney in heels wasn't like labeling yourself like that wasn't very like heard of, especially for females. You know, early on I got a lot of criticism for it. It was like, oh, talk about being unprofessional. And I was like, I'm not unprofessional. I just look better than you. Like,
yeah.
Like my shoes are prettier.
Yeah,
that's it.
I love it. Yeah.
But
you created a brand.
I created a brand, and I'm to the point where like I go around San Diego and people are like, "Oh, you're the attorney in heels." I'm like, "That's right, I am in the flesh."
Yeah.
And it's a great marketing strategy for any business owner. They know like marketing is key.
No doubt.
So yeah, I could be Oropeza Law PC, like, and nobody will even remember what that, right? Or I could be Attorney in Heels and people will know my name and who I am and what I do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's a fun way to run my firm, but it's all good marketing. So
100%.
that's why I did.
Yeah. I mean, how did you come up with the idea though? Where did the brand come from? Or were you just wearing heels since you were 5 and you just
Yeah, I wore heels a lot. I've been wearing heels for a really long time.
What happens when people see you out and you're in sneakers?
Actually, I'm rarely out in sneakers.
Yeah, you're in the heels.
Unless I'm hiking, like you're not gonna see me in flats.
Okay.
But yeah, it came from, you know, when I closed my first deal as a lawyer, I remember saying like, yeah, and I did that in heels, and it was always like, God, closing deals in heels, and I was like, yeah, I'm the attorney in heels, and I was like, oh, the attorney in heels, that's who I am, right?
I like it.
And I ran with it. From there on, I just got like attorneyheels.com. I put it all on social media, you know, and I remember a colleague was like, you know, attorney in heels, that's not even close to feminine empowerment. And if it was a good handle, somebody would have already taken it. The fact that you found the domain is a testament that it's not a good idea.
Right.
And I was like, he's like, I can help you with marketing. I was like, no, thanks.
No, thank you. No. The fact that nobody had it meant that you were
that
really ahead of your time.
I was doing something unique. So
absolutely.
I went with it.
I like it. No doubt about it. And yeah, the heels are dope today too. Not everybody's gonna be able to see them, but you got great heels on today as usual. So okay, now you have the consultations that I saw that on your website. You're doing consultations as well, and people can reach out to you for consultations. I saw like 15 minutes, 30 minutes.
Yeah, I do short consultations for, you know, anything that people need me for in the, you know, business or estate planning side of things. Super easy. Go on my website, click a button, get on my calendar. It's seamless. It pops up on my calendar and I give you a call.
That's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's important too, right? I mean, there's so many folks. I mean, really, people need legal advice every single day.
Yeah, and I try to make it like, some people think that, you know, talking to a lawyer is like not affordable. So I make my 15-minute like consultation super cheap. It's like $50. You can talk to a lawyer. You can quickly ask me anything you need to know about, so that, you know, you don't Google it and get the wrong answer.
Yeah. Right. I like it. So what I'm interested in also, though, is, you know, these days and times, right, with the pandemic and all. Have you seen different types of cases, or what types of cases have you seen since COVID, since the pandemic?
Well, definitely a lot like what I had last week, you know, people dying of COVID and, you know, going to the hospitals to help take care of things, or people who had COVID and they had a scare and they were like, oh my God, I almost lost my life. Like, I really need to take care of this. And, you know, made sure that they came to me after, or family members that passed away. And it brings it forth for a lot of people. Whereas before, people weren't thinking as much of doing estate planning, you know, with the pandemic, a lot of people start thinking about it a lot more. So yeah, it was one of the things that changed the most.
Yeah. I like it. I mean, you know, estate planning was always important.
Yeah,
right?
it's always
it never was not important, right?
Yeah.
But it becomes a reality, certainly when you're in, you know, you're looking at, you know, mortality, and you think a little bit more, especially when you've got these beneficiaries, you got these people that you know, if you're gone, then what do they do? You know? It's scary.
Yeah, it's very scary. It's scary that when you're younger, you don't think about it, but that's usually when you need it more, because when you're younger, you usually, you know, have small children, you have a wife that, you know, or you have a husband or a partner that's, you know, that you're sharing a life with. And then if you're not there anymore, it's very hard for the families. But unfortunately, you know, when we're younger, we kind of feel like we're eternal, and we're not going to die, so it's not something we think about. But yeah, less than half of the population take care of their estate planning.
Less than half?
Yeah.
Okay.
And most of them just end up in probate.
Wow.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, because that's where the family estates kind of disappear into, you know, the courts and the fees and then it becomes this long drawn out process.
So make it easy for us then. Explain estate planning and that the process isn't so difficult. Is it so intricate that you can understand why people are so scared to do it?
I think people are scared to do it because nobody wants to talk about death. It's a hard sell. I mean, and that's one of the things that I do is like I talk to the Latino community about this stuff. And in our culture, like we avoid these topics at all costs. So it's a really hard
that we were talking about
Yeah,
earlier.
so it's a really hard to sell because like, you know, we're willing to spend the $20,000 on the quinceañera, but we are not willing to spend the $100 a month on the life insurance or you know, or the $3,000 on the family trust. But what happens is if we have any person here in the state of California that owns a home, like they're automatically going to be in probate. And what that means is like their estate gets locked in court and every decision that needs to be made to liquidate it after that is going to be in front of a judge, which means it's going to be at least a 1.5 to 2 year process. And then usually with the fees that are mandated by the state, you end up losing about half. So if you have a $200,000 estate, why not spend the $3,000 to save yourself $100?
Right.
So it's a good decision to make, but nobody wants to talk about that.
Say, you know what? I want you to repeat that because I like that because, you know, this is the finance lady also coming out of you, right?
Right.
If you have a $300,000 estate,
Right.
why not spend
The $3,000 to save yourself $150,000.
That's right. I love that. That's the one. That's the business lesson right there.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. I have another business lesson that you mentioned earlier. We're going to repeat it. Don't do business with family informally.
Yeah.
Get it in writing.
Exactly. You know, especially in our communities, people, if they get enthusiastic about launching a business and they're looking to, I don't know, launch a product or start some kind of service, they sometimes go to their families for funding, right? And they're like, hey, I'm starting this. How about you give me $10,000 for this business, right? And then they're like, oh, yeah. And sometimes families wants to be supportive and they'll hand over $10,000, right? But the question is, it's like, is that a loan or is that an equity share in my business?
Right.
If my business goes to a multi-million-dollar business, does your cousin now own a portion of your multi-million-dollar business, or do you just pay them back their $10,000?
Right.
Like, and those are conversations that are often not had. Like, is it buying you equity or is it a loan?
Yeah.
Or, you know, what is the transaction that happened? And yeah, definitely everything in writing because it avoids a lot of that conflict and a lot of the unknowns.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think it's super important. I completely agree with you. Is it a gift, a loan, or do you own part of my business?
Yep.
That's a big deal. That's a big question, and you better be careful out there.
Yeah. Well, you'll find is that's rarely ever a gift, especially if your business is doing well.
Right. 100%. Okay. I have another question for you. Since this is Meraki season,
Okay.
I got to ask you what your Meraki is.
My Meraki.
Yes. And you understand with Meraki, it's to do something with love. It's to put a piece of yourself into what you do and to do something with passion.
Yeah.
What is yours?
What is my Meraki?
Uh-huh.
My kids, of course.
Love it.
Yeah.
Daily motivation.
Yeah. There's some challenges with, you know, being a parent, as I'm sure you know. Especially for me, I don't have a ton of patience. So I, you know, try to pray on it a lot. Like, God, give me patience so that I, you know, but definitely my kids, you know, when I go through hard things, like they're kind of the things that they're the people that keep me moving forward. Like It's easy to give up when, you know, nobody's depending on you. But when you have when you have two little kids looking at you like, what's next, mommy?
Right.
Yeah, I have a 11-year-old daughter, and she looks up to me, you know. She's and she'll tell she's super confident. She's incredible. She's very much my little copy. And she always makes these little comments like, "Yeah, you're a badass bee, mom, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, baby." So I was like, I have to walk that walk so that I can be an example to her, you know, so that, you know, she can grow up to be that confident woman. And and I'm just so glad that she has me, because I wish I had that when I was growing up, you know?
Sure.
So
I love it.
yeah.
That's awesome. That's a perfect Meraki. Kids first. I've always been a kids first parent, and I believe in that 100%. They are the future. And so, yeah, the reason why they're asking what's next is because they see a future.
Yeah.
Like there's future there, and you got to show them the way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm so glad you were here today.
I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, this was awesome.
This was easy. I was very nervous.
No, there's no reason to be nervous. We keep it casual around here, but you give so much good information, right? And that's the whole thing about the work-life balance, right? Is the ability to work, to give great information, great advice, and still be able to have a good time amongst peers.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what this show is all about. That's what I'm here for. And I'm glad that you came in and got relaxed and told some amazing stories. I mean, fascinating. So I can't wait to get back and listen to this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. I want you guys to reach out to Attorney in Heels. Reach out, please. It's easy, attorneyinheels.com. Book a consultation with, you mentioned a book earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me.
I'm working on a book.
Okay. It's coming.
In the next year, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing a book that is kind of a myriad of the stories of me growing up,
Yeah.
with some lessons in there about life and business as well.
Beautiful. You know what really is important to me is how much you love your work. I can tell that you really love what you do and you put that passion into it. It's important. It's important for folks to, you know, we say it all the time. It's kind of cliche, right? To do what you love, do what you love. Like it's that easy, right? Everybody can't find a job doing what they love.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things about entrepreneurship is that we make it look so flashy and so easy. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to do that. Like when I talk to my clients, sometimes they're like, you know, like, I don't want to talk about this. It's kind of like hard for me to talk about because it's really embarrassing and I don't have this in order. And I'm like, well, that's what I'm here for, you know? And like, and they're like, oh, but I'm like, when they say like, I'm embarrassed, I'm like, we all are. Like, yeah, there's months where my account's overdrawn and there's months where I'm okay, you know?
Sure.
So when we all start, like, it's hard.
That's right.
It's a roller coaster.
That's right.
So I think that's one of the things that I bring to my clients as well. Like, I'm not just a lawyer in a big firm collecting a paycheck. Like, yeah, like I'm right there with you in the trenches, like hustling, you know?
Right.
And yeah, like whatever I can do to like motivate you and help you keep going, or, you know, invite you to a networking event to just get through it. Like whatever it takes, you know?
Beautiful. Yeah. That's great. That's great. Give her a follow at Attorney in Heels on all social media. And I am saying, I know I may not enunciate it correctly, but it's heels. We're talking about her heels. HEELS, not the HILLS.
Yeah.
attorneyinheels.com and at Attorney in Heels on all social media. Also book a consultation with her. You'll see it on our website. I really appreciate you being here. I appreciate all of you guys for listening. I would like you to like and subscribe us on at Same Biz Pod, SAMEBIZPOD, and at A Different Day Radio. Don't forget to comment and hashtag Meraki Season, MERAKI, Meraki Season. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for your support. This is Same Business, Different Day.